And in it, they said, like, regardless of how old your children are, it was like 90-something% of children will blame themselves for your divorce.
Yeah. I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl, how you do the things that you do?
Welcome to the Brave Talk Show, where we connect with brave women like yourself to laugh, to cry, and to war about the topics near our hearts. It's a powerful episode, so if you like it as much as we think you will, smash that subscribe button so you can connect with us on a future episode as well. Today we are ready to dive into our episode on blended family, but first we are going to play music words.
I'm so scared.
They have to sing. The ladies are going to sing.
Oh my
Are you guys ready? So I'm going to give you a word, right? One word. And that one word, you have 4 seconds to think of a song and sing that line with that word.
Okay.
Are you guys ready?
I
can
took
see all the
I took my
faces.
ginkgo
You guys
biloba
got
this
it.
morning. My brain is
Here we
charged.
go. Who's going to go first?
Me.
Okay. The word is forever. You got 3, 2.
Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live? Do you really wanna live?
That was really great.
Yeah, I
Okay.
killed it. Crushed that.
All
Are
right.
you ready? Are you ready, Miss Brittany?
No, let's do it. Go, Teresa, and then we'll run out of time for me.
No. Here we go.
Okay, Teresa, your word is love. 4, 3.
What's love got to do?
Hey!
Got to do with it.
Ooh.
What's love but a something emotion?
A toxic combination.
Oh, that's what it was.
I thought it was.
Okay, let's go. Okay,
You guys, Brittany,
Here we go. Just say. She's got 4 seconds. Here
I'm
we go.
you got 4
not-
Yes, you
seconds,
are.
and your
I
word
can't
is
sing.
happy. 4, 3,
Okay, I got this one.
2.
If you're happy and you
Classic. I love it. I thought you were going to do because I'm happy. Clap along.
I know.
Yes, I was gonna do the happy song.
That
I got
was.
one for you then.
Oh goodness, you put me in the spotlight.
Ooh. You have one?
No, I don't
Okay.
do music.
Dog. 1.
Who
two.
let the dog out? Woo, 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 woo.
Good. If it's a good one.
That was fun. Thank you. So, all right. So that was really fun. So let's jump into the heart of our episode today, and that is blended family with Chelsea. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
I was
Thanks
so
for
excited.
here.
So happy to have you.
Thank you. I was excited when she asked.
Okay. So tell us about you and your family. I love what you do on Instagram. I love how you put
Thank
yourself
you.
out there and the positiveness behind it. So tell us.
You know what? So I got married when I was 18, and then I got divorced when I was 21, but I had a little boy, and then I met my husband when he was 2, and we've had 4 other children. So we have 5 kids. My husband's family is from Haiti. So, so our oldest is white, and then we have 4 mixed kids. So we have the blended aspect and the interracial aspect, and it's lots of learning, but it's been awesome and growing every day, I think. So,
And how long have you been married?
so we're coming up in March. It'll be 8 years. So,
Amazing.
So your
Yeah.
oldest is 10.
yep. So I have a 10-year-old boy, a 7-year-old boy, and then I have a 4-year-old girl, a 2-year-old girl, and a 5 months almost girl.
Amazing.
Yep. And that's it. I'm done.
You
doing
said that
no more.
before,
Are they
though,
cute?
because
I
I know
did,
you, and
but
you
this
were done
time my
after.
doctor said no more. So
now you're done.
we're
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
really done this time now.
And if you guys follow, it's Life with the Dorts,
Yeah.
right?
Dorts.
She's the cutest family.
You guys.
The most
thank
beautiful
you.
children.
Yeah.
They are
You have to
so
follow.
beautiful.
Yeah.
They are. And your baby right now, too. It's so cute.
Oh man.
So,
She is so
after
cute.
getting a divorce, what was life like? Was it like hopeful, or were you more like, how was that?
You know what? We in Utah, I divorced when I was basically the same age as everybody that was like going to college, and I had a 2-year-old, and so it was kind of hard actually, just because a lot of people my age weren't getting married. I mean, they were still in that phase where they were like hanging out with their friends and going out, and so to have somebody that had not only been married but had a child was kind of that was a steep slope for them, which is fair. you know, and I think that sometimes you get that pushback where people will say things like, well, I get frustrated because nobody wants to be with somebody that already has a kid, and that's a frustrating feeling. But it's also, it's very fair for them to feel that way. So you kind of, it was a little bit lonely for a while, but I think that, you know, I started going on dates and I met a lot of really fun people, and then I met Bedford, and we met on Tinder. So.
Yes. I love that it's successful.
Yes,
That's
it was
great.
right when it first came out, and
You're a Tinder OG.
I am. I am. I really am. It was right at the beginning when it first came out, and I was going on dates, and I wasn't introducing them to my son, and then I would get attached. And then when it came time to meet him, then they would get kind of nervous. So I was kind of done with that. So on my first date with Bedford, my husband, I was like, I'm just taking him because I'm kind of done.
Whoa.
And
The first date.
Yeah.
I
And
love
so
that.
I was very over it. I just kind of anticipated that it wouldn't go anywhere because
Yeah.
I had been down that road so many times. And so we went to breakfast, and then he asked me to go to fireworks that night, and then he ditched me because he forgot he already had a date. And then I thought that that was over, and then now we're married.
You forgave him.
Yeah, I did. Well, I bring it up all the time.
And I'm
But
like,
it's okay.
he
What
does
did
it?
your husband say about the first date with
Yeah.
your son? Like maybe that like sealed it for you. Like
You know what? He actually told his friends, like, I don't want to be the person that ditches a single mom, but I also don't want a kid. So I'm just going to go. I'm going to be nice. We're never going to talk again.
And then he liked you.
And then, I don't know what, I sucked him in, I guess. I don't
You
know.
just pulled him
Yeah,
in.
sometimes he'll be like, it was your booty. That, you know?
yeah, it was. Yeah.
Like, it's not my face. is
Yeah,
it?
he just, I don't know. We had a really good first date, and I was stressed because my 2-year-old didn't eat his food. He didn't, you know, it was the normal parent type stress.
Like what life
Yes.
is gonna be like.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that, you know, and so I think that that's probably what made me feel so comfortable dating him, is because from the beginning he saw like,
What
this
it's
is
gonna be
this is
like.
what it is. You
Yeah.
know, and you get the 2-year-old phase. So this
Right.
is what it's like, and he was accepting of that. So
Wow.
yeah,
Because he thought he'd never
Amazing.
talk to you again.
yeah, exactly. He thought it was
How
over.
old was he? Like was
Bedford.
he mature? Had been married? Like
No,
Young?
so I was 22, and he was 24.
okay, so he's a
And
little more
so,
mature.
yeah, yep. So
That's amazing.
I know.
So how does that play in with like his dad, your son's dad? Like how does that play into?
It's interesting. So I mean, if you read my platform, I'm very open about the fact that my ex-husband had an affair. Yeah. Because we also have a decent relationship now, and they're married now, and I think that we talk about that a lot, how it's very possible to have a really hard relationship and then still be able to flip things around for your kids. And so when we first got divorced, I was in like a very bitter phase where I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. If you could like not see your son, I will take every opportunity to do that, because I was so hurt by that.
Right.
But I think over time, and especially as I became happier, because they were in a relationship immediately after we were over. And so he was in a relationship and I was alone.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. But I think once I became happy on my own, I didn't really care. Like I just wanted Jax, which is our son, to be happy wherever he was, and that was really all that mattered. So he sees his dad every other weekend. We have a very cordial relationship. We talk about things that are important with, in regards to Jax. And I don't want to like hang out and like have him over,
Yeah.
but it works for us, and we figured out how to make it healthy for Jax. So
That's amazing.
So
Good for
the
you guys.
custody agreement then sounds like it's like a 25% dad,
honestly,
75%
our
you?
original is he gets to see his dad every other weekend and every Thursday, but we're really flexible. We wrote our own divorce decree. We basically just sat down and said, okay, what do we think is healthy for Jax? And we figured it out on our own. Over the summer, he goes every other week. If he has like a day off and he wants to go to his dad's, because he's getting old enough that he should be able to have a say in some of those things.
Right.
And so he should be able to say, hey, I don't want to come over this weekend because my friends are having like a sleepover that I'd like to go to, or whatever. He deserves that.
Right.
And so we kind of just ride the wave that he's on and allow him to take some responsibility and decide what he would like to do and where he'd like to be. And so we do have him the majority of the time, but he just depends.
Does he have siblings over on your ex-husband's side?
He has, so my ex-husband's sister passed away, and she had a daughter that is the same age as Jack's, and they adopted her. So he has a sister that is his exact age at his dad's, and then that's it. They're not having any other children either. So, yep.
Well, I can definitely relate to some of what you're talking about. I have a blended family as well, and I would love to know from our audience if you have a blended family, if you have one, let us know in the comments. We want to know more about you guys too. Similarly with me, I was a single mom for the 2 years and then met my husband when my son was 2 years old. One of the issues that we had, I'd love to hear how you guys did it, was the dynamic between the dads, because like my husband was stepdad, but he felt like he had an important role in my son's life. He wanted to be very involved. He didn't want to be in a marriage where it was like, that's not your son and you don't get to discipline and you don't get to, you know what I mean? Like I'll handle all of that. Like that wasn't the case. We chose also that my son would not call him by his first name. We made up a name for him so that it was still like
What is it?
Papa. Yeah, and the reason, and a lot of people were like, that's a name for a grandpa, but when I was growing up, I called my dad Papa. That was just what we did. So for me, it worked because it was still like a dad-like name. Yeah. So he called his dad, and then Owen, my husband, Papa. Anyway, that was an interesting time of just like the dynamic between the dads and the role that they play. What was that like for you guys?
I think, my husband and my ex-husband just don't talk. Like it's very, it's
you.
Yeah, it runs through me. I mean, if they run into each other, then they'll say like, hey, how are you? And that's really it. Yeah. I think that my husband has a harder time, because if we're being honest, the effects of infidelity and divorce still run in my life. Like there's still times where something triggers or whatever. He's like seen me through therapy, and he's kind of pushed. He's been the one that's seen that, and kind of had to rebuild it. And so because he never had a relationship with my ex-husband, he has a harder time seeing him as anything other than what he did and like how he's made me feel. And so they don't really interact. They're not like bad to each other. They just don't talk. But I think that in regards to, Bedford is all that Jax has ever really known. We met when he was 2. He does not remember anything prior to that. But I think that we've kind of, again, just let Jax kind of coast through what feels comfortable. So for a long time, he called him Bedford for years and years and years. And even to this day, he still will, but it's becoming more natural for him to say, hey, Dad, or just because he's a father figure. Yeah. And so it just kind of switches back and forth. Sometimes he'll call him Bedford, sometimes he calls him Dad. But I think it's interesting. We were talking a little while ago with just like the Instagram community, and we were asking like, what is the hardest thing about being a blended family? And discipline was 100% the top problem. And I'm not surprised by it, because I think that parents have that problem anyway, disciplining biological children, whatever the difference is between you and your spouse. I mean, if you agree on even most things with your spouse when it comes to raising and disciplining your children, you're very lucky. Yeah. But I think that just that added factor of, am I really his dad? Am I really... And I think that it's surprising because a lot of people say like, no, before you discipline them, I want you to ask me. Yeah. Like, I want you to run it through me. And I think that in the beginning for us, that was okay because we were trying to ease in. Jax and I had been living on our own. I had been doing things by myself. But after a while, like, I can't ask him to show up emotionally, physically, financially, and support him in every single way, except you are not allowed to discipline him. Right. Like, I can't expect that of him. If I'm gonna ask him to be a father and love him as much as he loves our biological children, I can't ask that of him. And so over time, it's 100% an even playing field, and I would expect the same from his stepmom. Yeah. Like, I would expect that she is able to have those same abilities, because if she's going to provide for him and care for him and love him, then you can't exclude that portion of the relationship.
Yeah.
I love that. It's part of it.
It really is.
That is amazing. What is the age gap from Jack to your Bedford and you first child together?
So Jax is 10, and then our first was a honeymoon baby, and he's 7 right now. So, and my 7-year-old thinks he's like, just like the best ever. And he has a really hard time when he's gone. My 7-year-old also has some like emotional and like mental disability issues. And so he really relies on Jax. And so when Jax is gone, he just has a really hard time kind of understanding like why. And, but I think, yes, it's literally, he's his best friend. He goes everywhere with him. And Jax is one of the biggest things too, I think, is when you're coming into a relationship with your kids or his kids or your kids, I think having our own kids is always that's a scary step as well, because it's like, what if, because they're going to be gone sometimes. Like Jax is going to be gone, and how do we move on with our other kids without making him feel like life is going on without him, or how do we? Because our other kids also deserve to have time, they deserve for us to take them to the park or whatever. And Jax went through a phase where he would come home and he would like dig through the garbage and be like, you guys went to Chick-fil-A? And he could have gone to Disneyland, but he didn't care. He was missing something wherever he went. And so it's a little bit of a hard concept when you have your own kids and then you have one that is only there part-time to try to make it feel like everybody is seen and loved and cared for the same.
So did you just have a lot of open communication and dialogue with Jax about things not being completely fair? Like, you're still going to do things, you're going to do things with your dad?
Yeah, and I think sometimes we still have those conversations because it's very, whatever he, like, and I can't even fathom how he feels. Like, if I'm here, I'm missing this, and if I'm here, I'm missing this.
Yeah, it's
like,
totally
I'm
justifiable,
100% not always present in like what he considers to be his family unit. And so I think that that's really hard concept. But we've talked to him about like, you know what, bud, sometimes it's not going to be fair to your siblings. Like your siblings have never been to Disneyland, but you've been to Disneyland 4 times, you know? And I know that it doesn't necessarily make sense, but sometimes it's not fair for you and sometimes it's not fair for them. We obviously like save our vacations or like the bigger things for when he's home. But I mean, we're going to go to the movies and we're going to do those things because unfortunately life goes on, you know, it doesn't freeze or stop. And I think that as he gets older, he understands a little bit more of that. And I mean, we've always been very, very open with him and feel like, you know, I hope at least that he feels like he can ask anything or express anything. And I think that that's been probably the biggest benefit is having those conversations and making sure that we're 100% open.
Speaking of, you know, being honest and being able to have those like honest conversations, has over the course of the last 8 years, has that question ever come up where he's asked, you know, how come you and Daddy aren't together? Like, what did you tell him everything? Like, how was that?
Not until recently.
That's hard too because it's now his stepmom.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And so when you get divorced and you have children, you have to go through a divorce parenting class. And we went through that class. And in it, they said, like, regardless of how old your children are, it was like 90-something% of children will blame themselves for your divorce. Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, that's not going to be us. Because he was like 18 months old. And so, I mean, even younger. He had just turned 1. So I was like, that's not going to be us. But I didn't really think about the impact afterwards, like the evaluation that they do down the road. And so he would always ask, like, was it, you know, why did you get divorced? Why didn't it work? You know, was it, and then he started to say, was it my fault? Did I do something? And that's when I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't, because you would give him all the answers. You'd say, you know what, we just weren't happy anymore, and you know, it just wasn't working. And you would try to do all of those things, but it wasn't enough for him. Like, he needed to know that something had, like, what happened. So I think when we did talk about it, all I said was, you know what, some things that we originally had that we agreed on, like religion or how many children we wanted or whatever, those things changed. And then Dad met somebody that those things were the same and they aligned a little bit better. and mom and dad weren't getting along anymore. And so he met Bailey, you know, his wife, and they love each other. Like, they align and they're happy, and me and Bedford are happy. And he asked, like, did he meet her while you were married? And I said, yeah. And I said, and it hurt my feelings. Like, it was hard, it hurt my feelings. But I think that, you know, you look at where we are now, and we're both better where we are. And so it was a very, I mean, he understood what happened. He understood that it was hurtful, but he also is really happy with everyone still. And so
Great. That's
Wow.
great. That's
You nailed that. Like,
thanks. It was a conversation that I think I had a lot of time to prepare for because I knew that eventually he would want to know. I just didn't think he would be 9.
yeah.
Well, and I imagine it's a tough balance because especially if you're trying to raise a child where you're not bad-mouthing their dad, because you understand that they need to see their dad in a positive light, and you don't want to be bashing them. So the art of, like, how do you be truthful without bashing? That's
it's a hard thing.
yeah,
He
that's
did.
really
He
balanced.
hurt
And I
you.
imagine that
Yeah.
over time he's going to even have more questions, and at some point the truth will probably come out more so.
More
But you know,
detailed,
hopefully at that
yeah.
point he'll be more mature enough to.
Well, and I told his
handle it.
dad, like, you get to do that. Like, when he is 17,
That's a good thing.
18, whatever age it is where he's starting to, because the irony of it is that my ex-husband's dad did the same thing. And my ex-husband has a really horrible relationship with his father because he hurt his mother. And we had that conversation where I said, does that scare you? Because that was you, you know? And he's like, yeah. But I just told him, I said, that's a conversation that you get to have. Like, that's not something that I want to do, nor do I feel like it's my place. But one day he is going to come to you and say, hey, what happened? And you're going to have that conversation with him, and you can do it however you want. I don't care what it looks like, but you have to be honest with him because that was the choice you made. And he is very aware that that's going to happen, and he'll just have to figure out how to navigate it. But
I love that you put that back on him.
yeah, that's
What advice would you give to those that are in the situation now that you were in with a child, and there's people that has more than one child?
Yeah, like
what
single mom with
single mom, like
kids.
getting through that? Like, what do you, the hope or the message you kind of give there?
I think that first, like, a lot of people will message me and say, you know, I think that there's probably like something better out there. Like, I can picture that I would, or it'll be the opposite where they'll say, I just don't know that I'll ever find someone else. And my first thing is always like, that's not what we're worrying about right now. Like, we're not thinking, do I leave this relationship because there might be something better? Or do I not leave this relationship because there might not be something better? Like, that's, if you base being a single mom or even just being divorced off of what your future might or might not look like, that's the worst start you could possibly have. And so it really comes down to, like, you need to decide that you'd rather be by yourself and be happy than be in the relationship that you're in. And then once you get to that point, then it's about self-improvement, self-love, strengthening a relationship with your children, and figuring that out first. And then things just kind of will naturally come your way. I mean, I think dating is the worst, and I would never, ever, ever want to do it again. But I noticed the difference between when I was trying to go out on dates just because I felt like that's what I should be doing, but I was really struggling with myself. I wasn't really ready. I didn't know who I was. I was going through this identity crisis because so much of who I was based on my marriage, not on who I was. And so I'm going out on these dates. I have no idea who I am. I have no idea what I like, what my favorite food is. Like, I had no idea. But then once I found those things and I took the time to say, okay, I need a break and I need to figure out who I am and what I like doing and what I'm passionate about and what makes me happy, and as an individual, completely detached from marriage, then it was completely different after that. It was going out on dates was very much like you could see the alignment or the misalignment, because prior to figuring out who I was, there was nothing to align to. I didn't know. And so that's what I would say is, before you try to be happy with someone else, you very much need to be happy, and not perfect or complete or whole, because like I said, I still have some like traumas, things that I have to deal with, but you have to at least be okay with who you are and know what you're trying to align with someone else before you try to align with someone else. So
I love that.
I love that. I love that a lot.
So thinking about your kids, what's the dynamic like between the kids that you have with Bedford and Jax? Is it like what you'd see in any other family? Is there something different? What does that look
I mean,
like?
I feel like I don't know any different. So what we have is normal, but I think we're very blessed in the sense that they seem like they were always just born to like be each other's siblings.
Yeah.
Like it's very natural. When he comes home from his dad's, they are all like waiting at the window or waiting at the door because they're like dying for him to come home. I have videos of like the girls as babies like running to him when he comes in the door because they recognize the absence. Riker sleeps with a picture of him above his bed. Like they're all very attached to each other. I mean, he's the best brother. He's super involved, like very supportive. When he walks out of school, he still holds Riker's hand. I mean, he's 10, and he holds Riker's hand all the way through the field, hanging, like, and his friends are there, and he's talking with his friends, but he still is just like holding his brother's hand. He always makes sure, like, hey, Riker, I'm going to my friend's house. Do you want to come with me? He's just like, he's not the brother that's like, I don't really want him to come. Like, he wants him to be around. He's very, so I think, I guess, again, I don't really know any different, but I feel like it was supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
But you also have another element in your marriage, right? And also for Jack. So Bedford is black, and so your children are a little bit more darker toned than him.
Yeah.
How does that come to explain that to him? Does that ever comes up, or is that something that?
I mean, we talk a lot about like Black history and all of that stuff in our home because I think it's something. I feel like I could learn 100 new things every day, and I still wouldn't really know anything almost,
Right.
I feel like I'm constantly trying to educate myself and grow and do better and be better, and that's something that Jax and I have had lots of conversations about where, what our experiences are. Like, sometimes I literally feel like I'm trying to alter my reality of how I grew up because I like hear how Bedford grew up or some of the experiences that he had, and I think like, oh, that is not at all like what I experienced or knew to be reality. And so I think that trying to understand those things feels heavy for me, let alone him. So I think that, I mean, from a really young age, kids would say like, that's not your brother. And he was like, yeah, it is. And so we taught him to say like, my mom's white and his dad's black and my dad's white, so I'm white and he's brown. And kids are so cool with it. Like when he explained it, kids would say like, oh, okay. Because they just needed it to make sense. They weren't trying to be rude. They weren't trying, it didn't make sense. They just wanted to know. And
I love that. I love how simple it is. Like, that's this, and then they're like, okay.
And then it's it.
makes
That's
sense.
it. And then they go and they play soccer, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And so he's super protective of it. He's, he has had people that will say like, that truly think he's not being honest with them about the fact that it's his brother, and he'll like get in arguments with them. But I think that for the most part, I think he's learning as much as he can, the same way that I am. And it's,
And he's 10.
Yeah.
I know. I think it's all about teaching in age-appropriate ways
Yep.
and learning, like, okay, he's 10, but truly he is so smart. Like, he's one of the smartest children, and I obviously am biased, but he's so smart. And so I can teach him some things. Like, I've talked to him about sex, and he learned about it when he was 8 because he was asking questions. So we've had that conversation. And so you as a parent are able to evaluate your children and say, okay, Riker's 7, but there are a lot of things I'm not going to talk to him about because you cannot process that. Even though I might tell another 7-year-old, I'm not talking to you about it.
Yeah.
And I think that you just evaluate your kids and say, what's the best way that I can teach you? What can I offer you that you can intake and then be able to like utilize? And so that I think that as I learn and as we learn, we just kind of share with him.
I'm sure that your kids with Bedford too are going to get the same as Jack's. Like, that's not your brother.
Yeah.
He's got white skin, and you'll have to
Yeah.
teach them the same.
And that's exactly, I mean, that's kind of just how it's been. They'll hear it and he'll be like, no, his mom and dad are white and my mom is white and my dad's black, so I'm brown. And then it's over every time.
That.
So I know I in California where I'm from, seeing mixed ethnicities in families you see it all the time. I don't think even people bat an eye about it. In Utah, and I haven't been here long enough to even know, like, what's been your experience in being in a biracial family with, as far as just people, outsiders looking in? Have you experienced any?
We have a whole show. We got a whole show.
Yeah. I think that first, like, the most obvious thing is that I didn't really realize, like, what racism really was. Like, I don't think I ever really grasped that. And, it literally took me, we were dating when I started really seeing it, and it didn't feel real because that wasn't my reality. I had never seen anything like that before. And so you have that on the one hand where you realize just how alive racism really is. And not just the things that people say that seem exaggerated or what, like, it's really there. But I think that the thing that I wasn't really expecting, and I want to say this in, like, the most respectful way possible, is that there's an equal amount on it from, not equal, from, but, like, there's a good amount from the black community that also does not like it. And I can totally actually understand in some ways because they're trying to stay safe. They're trying to stay in a community where they feel like, listen, another black person is going to understand what I've been through more so than somebody that is white. Or some of the things that I get the most are, like, white women should not raise black children. Because, and again, I think that it comes from a place of, like, they are safer with someone that is going to understand them, And so it hits hard because sometimes you feel like you don't belong anywhere. You don't fully belong here. You don't fully belong here. There are people here that don't accept you. There are people here that don't accept you. And my husband will say often, like, it worries me for my kids because there's going to be kids that are racist, and then there's going to be kids that tell them they're not really black. And where do they fit? And so we have this conversation a little bit more often, than I would prefer. But it's truly sometimes concerning because it is absolutely shocking how many people still believe that you should marry within your own race. And so I think from the white perspective, when I hear anything from people that are white, it's usually deeply racist, like scary, deeply racist. But I think that more so from the black community, it's more of
It's a safety thing.
It still hurts my feelings, I'm not gonna lie. Still hurts my feelings. But I can see where it comes from or where it generates from because there are things that happen within my marriage that I don't understand. And I would never. And there will be things that happen with my children where I have to say, I can offer you empathy and I can love you and I can cry with you because I love you so much, but you're gonna need to talk to your dad because I truly don't understand. And I know that that's coming. And as a mother, that's hard because I want to be able to take care of my children in every way, but there's going to be things that I can't take care of.
I think that the beauty of it too is the fact that you're willing to, like, learn and understand. Because I think that's all, like, when you think of the safety of it, it's just like, I think you had said something about the same thing, like how people adopt black children. And I think it's just doing the work. If you're willing to, like, these kids want to be adopted, they want a home. So if you really need to take that culture and embrace it as your own, I think that's all. Like you said, you're like, I see kids and their hair is not even done. And I'm like, that's what bothers me. So if me as a black woman, if I see that, you adopt children and I see your children and her hair is all messed up, then to me that bugs me. Like, I'm not judging that you have a black child. I'm judging that you didn't take the time to learn about that child's culture, that child's hair, and make the effort to make sure her cute little hair is done. So I feel like I appreciate the fact the people that does learn.
And I think
embrace
it's
the culture
truly,
for those kids.
It's like an all-consuming thing for me because I you know, you hear about that where it's like, my sister-in-law was like, my hair causes me PTSD. Like, I'm not joking. And she was like, thinking about my hair gives me anxiety, like growing up with my hair. And I don't get it. You know, I keep touching my mic, I'm so sorry. But I don't understand that depth of, and I've been hearing that, and even when I only had Jax. And so as I was having babies, I was like, oh my gosh, their hair. That was like a big thing for me. And even now I've spent thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours watching videos, trying different products, trying to like different whatever. I've listened to so many different, like all the things. I follow a million hair accounts. But it's like, because to me, it's not good enough to say, well, I don't know how to do it, so I'm just gonna do what I know. Yeah. Like, if I did to my hair what I do to her hair,
it doesn't go.
I could probably wash my hair for like a week and it wouldn't, you know, it's like our hair needs different things.
Yes.
So I think that that's been one of the biggest things for me is like education, like, and then educating more because I just want them to feel seen, and like as they grow up and learn to care for their own hair, my biggest fear was that they would say like, I wish my mom was black because she had like, I have no idea what I'm doing. My mom had no idea what she's doing. I want to be able to have them be like, oh, my hair's healthy, and then deal with how they feel about it from there, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I love that.
Love that.
I love the fact that you want, you know what I mean? You take Bedford and you guys became together. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, this is my child, this is mine, this is my culture, this is like, there's that kind of embracement of like, because I think when you get married, we always think like, oh, this person comes in, and we're trying to make it happen. It's like, but there's a way you have to make it work. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I love the idea of that. I think I'm all that person that I totally believe that, of course, it will be easier if we marry our own culture, but the beauty of it all, we fall in love with the people that we don't, you know what I mean? Who we fell in love with. So I love that you embrace it and educate yourself. So I think that's amazing.
What did your husband bring to your marriage as far as culture goes that you didn't experience growing up? Like what were some new things that you began to embrace and take part in?
Honestly, so my husband was raised here in Orem. So it's, I mean,
Still a lot of Utah culture in
it is. It's a lot of the same stuff. So more than anything, it's like stuff that I've just like learned from his parents.
Who were from Haiti?
Yes.
Okay.
And, like they always kiss you.
Yeah.
That catches me off guard. Like the first time I met his family was at one of his sister's weddings, and everyone was kissing me, and I am not that. And I was like, oh. So I mean, it's just little things like that that are really like different for me. But I think that for the most part, like even with our girl's hair, I was like, can you help me? And he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, okay.
He's like, you're gonna learn that.
Yeah, he was like, I have no idea. And I was like, okay. Like, I dread his hair. I do, you know, it's like, but when I was like, okay, how do I do it? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, got it. Because he grew up here. It was like, culturally, we're just, I mean, you have the food and you have the weird little things. Like my mother-in-law says, like, you can't wear an ankle bracelet or something, you know, because it means something very different there than it does here. Yeah, it's not appropriate.
Yes, it does.
Take that off right now.
You little
Yeah, you are. Yeah, listen, I still wear them, but like,
But she doesn't wear them over at her mother-in-law's house.
Yes, but so I think that there's all those little things that are different, but for the most part, because I think he grew up here, all of his friends were white, you know, it was just like, this is what he knows, and so we're kind of just figuring that. Like even culturally, food-wise, I'll say like, okay, I want to learn how to do this so that when you are not here to do this, I can do this. And I'll say, what did you put in it? And she's like, I don't really know. And I'm like, okay.
We don't measure. We just throw it in.
You're gonna need to just stand there and watch her.
And like try to take a note. Like
it's true.
Like there's no measuring. I'll go over there. I'm like, do you have measuring spoons? No. Got it. Okay. Because they just don't. And so it's just culturally is so different. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Love that.
Chelsea, if you could leave us like in an audience with one thing about your family and blended family, what would it be?
That's hard. I think, blending families is so much harder than I think you would anticipate. And I think because you think like, well, I love this person and they love me, so we would totally just make this work. But I also have seen a really high divorce rate among blended families because they come into it thinking that, I love them, they love me, we'll love each other's kids, we'll figure it out. But I think that there was never really the realization that like, it actually takes so much work. I mean, marriage takes work, parenting takes work, but then learning to be married to someone who is not the biological father of your children, and then they also have this other parent, and then there's just so many elements that make it so difficult. And a lot of people don't anticipate it. So then when it does get difficult, it's not just the situation that's difficult, it's them or their spouse or whatever that is difficult. And so, I mean, honestly, I always recommend therapy even when you don't think you need it. Because you learn so much. I think that, you should go into it knowing that it's hard, knowing that it's okay to get help, knowing that like having regular conversations about, do you feel appreciated as a step-parent or a stepchild? Do you feel like you're being seen? Do you feel like I'm respecting you as the step-parent of our child? Having those conversations and just check-ins to make sure that they feel seen and loved and respected is so important. So overall, I mean, I think that it's so hard, but it's so worth it. And the sacrifice and the time, and so I would totally just do it. If you're in a position where you're like, I don't know if I want to get married because it's so complicated, just go for it. But just know that like the work
Accept
is there.
Yeah. I wonder if like premarital counseling, just like go through all of the lists, like, okay, where are you guys going to be on parenting and discipline? Where are you going to be on this? And then if any red flags show up, deal with them. Decide if it's a game change, like a deal breaker, right, or something that can be compromised on.
That would have been beneficial for me before I married. My husband of the same race that I have kids with.
I know.
Just one family.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm a big fan of premarital counseling regardless.
People, I think that there's this like, if you have to get counseling before you're even married, then, and it's like, no, I think everybody should have that.
There's some questions that you should be asking.
Totally. It'll minimize a lot of problems. And better to like, if it's deal breakers, better to end it before you've got your finances and other kids and all the
kids
and
yep.
Oh yeah.
Because you think it's hard breaking up now, right?
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Chelsea, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with
you.
us. You guys, Chelsea's on Instagram. What's your handle?
It's at Life with the Doors, but it's DORTS.
Oh, I said Dort.
I will never correct anyone because
It's a silent
Doors.
T.
it is.
I didn't
It's
see
French.
that coming.
Yeah,
It's okay.
it's French, right?
It's
Doors.
It is.
There we
It
go.
is. No, I have family members that have heard me say it way down the road.
It's that French sound.
And then they're like, what? And I'm like, I would correct everyone all day long. I don't care.
Yeah,
I know
like-
it's me.
I respond to door and doors.
Whatever you say, I know you're talking
Doors
to
are
me.
doors.
Right.
Doors.
So,
Me too.
That's
Thank you so
it.
much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yes.
All right, that's a wrap for this episode of The Brave Talk Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, there are more episodes you will love on that window to the right, and we will see you on the other side. Thanks for watching.
I have some questions for you. Hey, brave girl.